Every friend group has that one person who insists on doing things the hard way. You know, the friend still paying for the subscription they forgot about or refusing to upgrade their phone because it still works. I used to be that person too, especially when it came to overpaying for wireless. Then we learned about Mint Mobile. And yes, lesson learned. Forget the whole "this is just how it's always been" nonsense. You get the same coverage, the same speed, unlimited talk, text, and data, just without the inflated price tag. We are so pumped that Mint Mobile is our sponsor and can't wait to try their services. Who doesn't want to save money without compromising Wi-Fi connection? Duh. And right now, you can get 50% off 3, 6, or 12-month plans of unlimited premium wireless. No contracts, no hassle. With a 7-day money-back guarantee and customer satisfaction ratings in the mid-90s, Mint makes it easy to switch. And once you do, you'll wonder why you waited so long. Ready to stop paying more than you have to? New customers can make the switch today, and for a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/Colty. That's mintmobile.com/Colty. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for a 12-month plan required. $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or mental health advice. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast and are not intended to malign any religion, group, club, organization, business, individual, anyone, or anything.
I'm Sarah Edmondson.
And I'm Anthony Nippy Ames, and this is A Little Bit Culty.
We woke up from a cult, and that journey was captured in The Vow on HBO and in my memoir, Scarred.
Now, in this podcast, we break down the shame and secrets that make these experiences so destructive with honest conversations on how seemingly benign groups can cross into the cultiverse and how to spot and recover from trouble if it happens to you.
Each week, we bring in experts, survivors, and whistleblowers to explore red flags, resilience, and even share a few laughs, because sometimes you gotta laugh.
Subscribe to our Patreon for early and ad-free listening, some live Q&A, and exclusive content at patreon.com/alittlebitculty.
Welcome to Season 8 of A Little Bit Culty.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of Sophia May, everybody.
So in part 1, we learned about Sophia's childhood and what brought her to the retreat center in Colorado. And in part 2, we're going to hear about, after 4 summers as a volunteer, what happened next and how Sophia was invited to be the guru's assistant. All right, Sophia, what was it like when you were invited to be the guru's assistant? And what did that job entail exactly? What were you told it was going to be?
The GA.
Yes, right. I was the GA on set. My 4th summer volunteering, I volunteered as Tsultrim's assistant. And that is because her previous assistant jumped ship after having her own extremely traumatic experience. So Tsultrim was without an assistant that summer, and I was coming and I was obsessed with her. So I was like, oh, this is my moment. Particularly because in Tibetan Buddhism, they believe that the guru's assistant is the highest honor, and that's like it's like the Autobahn. It's the super highway to enlightenment, because you're in close quarters and you're like a barnacle on the guru's side, and you're just constantly absorbing blessings. And you're also constantly having your ego cut down, which is code for absorbing narcissistic abuse. Right. Anyway, I volunteered as her assistant for 1 summer. That summer, she lived in the temple because her husband had died the year before, and she found it too heartbreaking to go back up to the house where they lived. at the top of the hill. And so my duties were limited to whatever would happen inside the temple. I got her groceries and I just, I would clean the temple room and I would sit around with her and shoot the shit. And I was kind of just her buddy for the summer. And actually, like, my duties were extremely limited and it was a rather chill kind of experience. So I thought that's what I was signing up for. So when I came back the next year to do that full time, I thought it was the same job. It turns out that I was not even close to correct in anticipating what the job would be like as the full-time hired assistant who was on payroll. So she was back up at the house. The house is massive. She's exceedingly wealthy. So she also has horses. She has a retreat cabin of her own on the other side of her property. So one of the parts of the job is managing her estate, in a matter of speaking. But none of that was made clear to me. So I started the job thinking it's the same job. No one has given me a job description. Nobody's said shit about what might be different this time. And on like the third day of the job, I'm sitting with Tsultrim and I'm feeling so awkward because things don't feel nice this time for some reason. Like the previous year, she was so lovey-dovey, so incredibly available to me. Just like she was like the mother I never had, which is something I desperately sought in her. Really, anyone could have fit those shoes, but she was considered the great mother. She was an older woman who seemed to have nurturing qualities.
Quick question. I'm wondering, did she delve into your personal life? Did she have like personal profiles on the people around him? And do you think it was strategic on her part to know your areas of vulnerabilities and to know how to set things up? Do you think she was that strategic in it?
I don't know how sort of consciously strategic she was as opposed to intuitively. The way that she burned her employees in the inner circle always seemed tailor-made. The way that she hurt Rachel, who was her previous assistant right before me, this was this girl who was 19 years old, who worked as her assistant for 9 months, sandwiched between when I was volunteering that summer and then when I came back to do it full time. And basically, the abuse Rachel received was so extraordinary that she ended up in a mental hospital. But one of the things that Tsultrim did with her was she had her drop out of NYU in order to be her assistant and her translator. So she completely derailed her life for her own gain.
Wow.
Whereas with me, I was coming from a much needier place. Rachel had family that loved her and supported her. So the tactics needed to be different. But with me, I didn't have family. I was incredibly desperate for acceptance, for a mother, for love. And so I believe she just kind of as a narcissistic mastermind understood just how to undermine my defenses and what she could exactly say to make me feel small and to put the fear of God in me. And she knew everything about everyone because people confided in her.
Can you give us like a sample day in the life? And now that you're back and it's the real deal, not like the lovey-dovey, just fetch your groceries. Like what did your life look like now that you were committed? And also, how long were you there for in that role?
So I was there working full-time as her assistant for 2.5 years. My duties consisted of going up to the house, or actually waking up at the crack of dawn so that I could set up her ritual items at our morning meditation place before she got there. I would have to have, wherever we went, I would have to have like all of our equipment, her lemon cough drops, her Gerolsteiner sparkling water, her tea as well as an option, her particular sheepskin that she wanted to meditate on, her particular cushion, or no, she would meditate without a cushion, her little table. Everywhere we went, I needed to make sure that I had everything she could possibly think of. And I would have it delivered for her before she thought of it. So, think super entitled rich woman who wants what she wants when she wants it. And she has infantile impulses. So if she doesn't have the nipple in her mouth before she even wants it, then she throws a tantrum. And so no one told me that was my job, though, that it was to anticipate her every single need and be so far ahead of her that she had this kind of magical experience of reality that was just, absolutely seamless. So she never experienced any form of discomfort.
Did anyone ever say to her that these might be attachments, that she was attached to these things and she might want to look at that?
Pretty sure that didn't happen.
No, because for the guru, this is all framed as enlightened entitlement. Like she would have us set something up and she would dictate exactly what she wanted, like an entire, a massive room that we were preparing for retreatants. And then 5 minutes before the session starts, before all the students come in, she would say, I want the exact opposite. Everybody change things now. And it would be DEFCON 5 and everyone would scramble and change everything. And then a minute, we'd get everything in place. And then she'd be like, oh, actually, I liked it the way it was before. And then we had 30 seconds to whip it all back together the way she originally wanted it. And, this is extremely stress inducing. And then all these other staff members would say, oh, well, she's just getting downloads from the Dharmakaya, which is like the highest realm of enlightenment. She's constantly downloading messages about how things need to be. So every entitled, bratty behavior she exhibited was completely justified as proof of how enlightened she was. And it wasn't until I was a city mouse and I didn't come from wealth. So I didn't know what rich people were like. But then when I left Tara Mandala and the only hireable skill I had was waiting on narcissists hand and foot, I went to work in Silicon Valley as a personal assistant to CEOs. And then when I worked for them, they had her same magical entitlement. And I was like, oh, it's not enlightenment. It's just people who have grown up having all of their needs met magically, and they don't understand that their needs aren't being met magically, that people are laboring and slaving in order to make sure that they have what they want when they want it. And that also was, that was a very clarifying experience after the fact. She's just a rich bitch.
Yeah, I was going to say the rich bitch moniker it's perfect for her.
Also, Nippy,
Rich bitch Dharmala.
you looked at me when she was describing the DEFCON 5 chaos. Why was that? Was there a memory you wanted to share or a comment you had? No?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What'd you think I was thinking?
Well, just how we were just in constant chaos scrambling to get.
Everyone near Keith Raniere was in constant chaos. And your experience, the parallels I hear, because you said in the previous episode, you were a peripheral. Was that the word you used?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were too. And then we were never really in the inner circle. And then you went into the inner circle. So you got to see the chaos. We heard about the chaos later. So you have a unique kind of experience in your cult of being both players in a sense, right? Observer, everything looks good. And then you got to see the storm and be on the other end of the storm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got it all. When the darkness of the role really set in was that basically I asked Tsultrim if she was dating in the first week because that was something that we had talked a lot about the previous year when, it was all butterflies and honey and butter. And when I asked her this, she just went stone cold and said, that's a very inappropriate question. And then she iced me out for several months. I was her personal assistant, so I was with her every single day through most of the day. And this bitch wouldn't look me in the eye. She wouldn't talk to me except in curt demands, just like, where's my water? And she wouldn't tell me what to do either. So I'm floundering. I'm like, what? I don't understand what my job is. Suddenly this mother figure who I adore and I've devoted my life to hates me. The whole community also somehow, I guess she had told them they hated me as well. So I was suddenly iced out by all these people who were my family. And by the second week, Tsultrim told me that I was too unstable to work in this position and that the only way I could keep my job would be to attend therapy sessions with someone who was on staff, who was like I guess she was a registered psychologist, and that I would do weekly sessions with her and really made it clear to me that I was just hanging on by a thread before, to getting fired. So I desperately agreed to these sessions because I was going to lose my home when I never had a safe home, my religion, my mother figure, and my whole community, and which was my family. So we did these sessions, and in the sessions, I would talk about how scary everything had become and how depressed I was. Because, nobody in the community would speak to me and no one would tell me how to do my job. When I would ask a question about how to do the job, I would be told, can't you just figure anything out for yourself? And then when I tried to figure something out for myself, then she would yell at me for being arrogant and would say, you don't know how to do these things. You should be asking people how to do them. And it turned out she was already trying to get me fired. And so I would go into these sessions and just cry and talk about how I was dissociating a lot and how awful it was for me. And then after a few months of sessions, this therapist who was a coworker said to me, well, we all know that you're really bad at your job. And I was like, I don't understand. How can you be speaking to me this way? This is like so unethical. You can't give me feedback you can't give me a performance review in therapy about my job. And she was like, no, Sophia, that's what this is. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, is I'm supposed to be using the criticism you've been getting about your work and integrating it into your sessions. And it blew my fucking mind.
Doesn't the rich bitch have the right to fire you, though? Like, why would she just fire you?
It's a really good point. Actually, I've never even thought about that. I think that it was giving her a lot of narcissistic supply.
I think this is part of the training program.
But I think she enjoys doing this.
Yeah.
That's where, that's the hardest thing for people to project into these kind of people. You're not a malevolent person. I've said this on many of our episodes. The hardest thing for good people to project onto someone in a position of power is that they have bad intent and they're malicious intent and they have malevolence behind their utterances. You wouldn't assume that. Like, you would never look at her from her position and think, oh, she's doing this intentionally to hurt me. Because you would never do that. That's my take consistently
exactly
on
right.
these.
Totally. And my guess, this is part of the training program to make you think that you're shit at your job, to have you come crawling back to get it right, done right, which is, I'm assuming, is what you did because you were there for 2.5 years. Now for something a little less culty, a quick sponsor message. We all know how much sleep does for our skin and for our sanity, but how much do we prioritize it? Actually unwinding at night, that is the hard part. My brain is still running tomorrow's to-do list, and my skin is suffering, especially right now in the winter. That's why I'm so excited about our newest sponsor, Osea's Dream Collection. It has become a staple in my nighttime routine, and right now, it's all about the Dream Night Serum and the Dream Night Cream, which are clinically tested, powered by bioretinol, which is essential at this age, designed to reduce the visible effects of stress while you sleep. I'm talking less dryness, less dullness, softer skin, and a noticeable boost in firmness by morning. It's like saying to your skin, I got you, I'm taking care of you. And now for 2026, I'm officially adding their newest launch, the Dream Bioretinol Body Serum, to my body routine. It's a restorative overnight treatment with bioretinol, red seaweed, magnesium, and lavender that visibly de-stresses skin, firms, smooths, and promotes that calm, ready for bed feeling. These are serious results, softer, more radiant skin by morning, and a bedtime ritual that actually helps you rest. This is body care that works while you sleep, and honestly, that's the dream. I'm obsessed. Give your skin a rest. Clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code CULTY at oseamalibu.com. This is something that I believe we should all be doing for ourselves, taking care of ourselves, getting ready for bed at night, and taking care of our skin. Enjoy. My friends, you have heard us gush about Hungry Root before, and honestly, we can't stop. As busy parents and podcasters, it's been a total game changer for saving time, cutting stress, and keeping us healthy. Hungry Root plans all of our meals for the week, fills our cart, delivers everything we need to eat well every day, tailored to our personal health goals, dietary preferences, and budget. They've got over 50,000 chef-crafted recipes every week, with many ready in 15 minutes or less, plus over 1,000 grocery items like smoothies, sweets, kids' snacks, salad kits, ready-to-eat meals, and supplements. It's so easy to find options that actually work for our whole family. Also, Hungry Root holds its food to high standards. No high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, or sketchy preservatives. Organic produce, high-quality meat and seafood, and trusted brands like Oatly and Vital Farms, Ithaca Hummus. If your New Year's resolution is to eat healthier, Hungry Root makes it easy to actually stick with that past January. I love how Hungry Root not only knows that we try to be gluten-free in our family and that I'm like pseudo-keto-ish. In our last box, I got a bunch of grab-and-go high-protein snacks, hello, perimenopause, and healthy snacks for the kids that were Sarah-approved. Thanks to Hungry Root, we are winning at life over here. You are going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/culty and use code CULTY. That's hungryroot.com/culty, code CULTY to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. The new year is here, and honestly, is it just me, or do we all need a little at-home refresh after the holidays? Wayfair makes it super easy to elevate your space without breaking the bank. I'm talking bedding, mattresses, storage solutions for every room, even desks and chairs for the podcast recording room you are dreaming of. We've refreshed our living room with some accent pillows, a few mirrors and faux plants for way less than expected, and it actually feels like a new space. Wayfair's massive selection makes it easy to find exactly what's right for you, whether you're on a budget, hunting for a statement piece, or just trying to get organized, which for us is what 2026 is all about. We also love how Wayfair sends us suggestions of items that fit into our vibe, including gorgeous new chairs for our new YouTube studio and our podcast space. I love how these chairs were not only easy to assemble, but also so comfortable and well-made. From home decor to storage to creating a functional work or recording space, Wayfair really is your one-stop shop. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track this year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things. That's WAYFAIR.com, Wayfair. Every style, every home. Sponsor break's done. Back for more culty stories. Just a quick sidebar, highly recommend a book called Terror, Love, and Brainwashing by Alexandra Stein. And she talks about how the cult leader puts the followers into a state of, I mean, it's basically the same thing with abuse and what you went through as a child, I'm guessing, without having shared those details. But usually there's the abuse and then there's the love, and the abuse and there's the love. So it goes back and forth. You never know what you're going to get. So that probably in some way felt familiar to you. In some way, I'm guessing. I'm not a therapist, so whatever, take it for a grain of salt. But also, you know, you had the lovey-dovey with her before, so you were trying to get it back. You're trying to get the crumbs, trying to get back in her good graces. You know it's possible, right?
Yes.
Continue.
Oh my God, 100% yes.
Yeah.
You just struck oil. Like what you just said is so 100% dead on. I had experienced a similar dynamic before my childhood, which was my parents always saying, it's your fault that you're getting abused. You're not being good enough. And at Tara Mandala, they were basically like, the not so subtle message was, you're being treated like shit because you're bad at your job. And so you absolutely deserve the total abandonment of this community. You deserve the brutal reprimanding, verbal abuse, sometimes even mild physical abuse from the other assistant. Like she body slammed me once because I wasn't doing something fast enough. It was so fucked. The effect the hazing process had was effectively demolishing whatever self-esteem I had coming into Tara Mandala. Whatever sense, the shred of self-worth that my horrible childhood left me with, that was considered offensive to Tsultrim. And so she needed to annihilate it. And she did that very effectively. I was constantly being told I was arrogant. If I spoke to retreatants, people I'd known for years, if I spoke to them in some kind of like just convivial, sociable way, I would be screamed at afterwards and accused of being arrogant. And how could I think that they would want to speak to me? You're so arrogant, Sophia. And then eventually, I spoke to one of the visiting teachers who I'd known for a long time. He was the director of Tara Mandala in my first summer during like the glorious casual hippie era. And I told him about what I was experiencing and how agonizing it was. And I was at that point suicidal. I was like, I'm losing everything. You know, the sword of Damocles was hanging over my head, the constant threat of firing. Survival mode kicked in and I was like, okay, just do whatever they say. Do whatever they say. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything that matters to you. So I started wearing a long velvet skirt every day, in this incredibly rustic environment, which was totally absurd. And it wasn't expected of anyone else except me to be wearing like a glamorous uniform. And around this time, I told Tsultrim how much I was suffering. And I offered her like the most precious thing that I owned. And she didn't take it. But then she said to me, I know that you've been going through this. I've been triggering you. And so she reframed this period of hazing as some kind of conscious, special spiritual attention that she had been giving me. And having felt so totally alone and abandoned for all of those months, the idea that she had actually been watching over me the whole time flooded me with feelings of gratitude and devotion. Even though people weren't telling me what to do, I started really, really just intuiting everything. And I kind of became a lama service ninja. Like I put everything I had into it. For this whole time, I wasn't allowed to take lunch breaks. I wasn't allowed to take dinner breaks. I was working from dawn to past midnight. I had to wait until after she fell asleep in case she might want something, even right before bed, always on call, always with her. I had been barely sleeping. And every time that I was like, hey, I'm really hungry. Can I please go to lunch? She would say, no, I need you. And then I would say, I'm hitting a wall. And she would say, you're hitting a wall? Then walk through it, which is also very manipulative. I really was a ninja. And I think that I was better at it than anyone had ever been before. And I was finally making her happy. Like, I poured that water so fast, no splash. I mean, that's a very stupid example.
No, I get it.
But that was also something she sort of systematically also broke down my self-esteem by sort of like really building up my efficacy to perform menial tasks, like folding her clothes, ironing, pouring her water. She would always be like, you're so good at that. And she would pat me on the head. Anything that I did that was actually impressive was totally played down, and anything I could do that literally any idiot could also do was totally played up. And so I came to think that I was so stupid and ineffective, and that I just was I thought I was totally incompetent based on the feedback I was chronically getting. And that made me very afraid to leave, even when I started realizing that it was all a sham.
How did you start to realize it was all a sham? What was the downfall?
Well, I'm so happy you asked, Sarah, because I'm so proud of that moment when it all cracked for me. So because I got so good at my job, they no longer had the excuse of me being bad at my job to abuse me. They'd previously had this incredible excuse to do whatever they wanted to me, and I accepted it. But now I was awesome at my job. I was undeniable, and yet they were still all treating me like shit. And so something didn't align there anymore. And then I remember Tsultrim had this garden party. I think it was for the anniversary. And she had it at her house, and I coordinated with the caterers, with the wait staff. There were lamas, I think, there were definitely guests then, and I was serving the guests. I was orchestrating the menu. I had decorated the entire house and garden inside and out. I was in charge of, it was so many different things. And I did an excellent job. And Tsultrim was happy with me. Like, for the first time in, since that previous summer, she was finally showing me affection. And she wanted to dress me up for the party. And she wanted to do my hair and my makeup. And she was treating me like a doll. And I was so happy. I was like, I'm finally getting it. I'm getting the prize that's at the top of the mountain. But she's such a vacuous, superficial, like hollow excuse for a human being that when I got her love, all I experienced was a very, very hollow version of love. And I could feel it in my body. I was like, this is fucking poison. This is no bueno. Like, it didn't feel good to be getting that from her. And I was like, wait a second, this is the thing that we're all aspiring to? This is why we're all climbing to the top of Everest, even though the air is too thin up here and it's ice cold and treacherous and we're all dying for it? This is what's at the top? This sucks. And so that was my turning point. Very slowly, I started identifying what was off. Like, we would go into staff meetings and fucking every time someone was crying because they were worked to a bloody pulp and they had collapsed at a certain point. And I would speak up and I would be like, hey, we're a Buddhist center. Shouldn't we be like more peaceful about getting things done? Like, why is everybody suffering so hard? Why is it always DEFCON 5? Like, none of this stuff needs to get done at the speed that Tsultrim says it needs to get done. Why are we, these women who would be collapsing, they were like 60 years old. And I was like, there's no reason that these people need to be suffering physically for our Tsultrim's vision. Like, it just stopped making sense to me. And I started speaking up more. I also had a boyfriend at the time who was a Tara Mandala volunteer, and he was super violent with me. And everyone came to know about it. Tsultrim had stayed in correspondence with him. Like, he had been writing to her, and because he stayed in India, he didn't come back. But it turned out that he wanted to come back. I accidentally saw one of the postcards he sent her while I was cleaning her office. I had like a breakdown. And when I tried to talk to Tsultrim about it, I was like, he abused me. And she was like, you think everyone's abusing you.
I just think it's such a slippery slope. Like, there's so many modalities, especially the ones that we've covered here, where it might be helpful for your growth to like figure out like your side of the street, your susceptibility that makes you a magnet, blah, blah, blah. That's great. That does not change the fact that people are abusing you, right? Like that,
yeah.
like they're two separate things, two totally fucking separate things. When I read that part of the article that you were calling out the abuse, and she said that you're projecting the abuse. That is classical spiritual abuse, like 101, to say that your perception of the abuse was just projection.
And it's a culture of abuse that she perpetuates.
Yeah. 100%.
Yes.
So you're going down the other side of Everest. You're seeing all these things. You have this abusive boyfriend. What was the final straw and how did you leave?
The disillusionment is very gradual. What they loved to do was they loved to regularly tell me that they couldn't justify my salary anymore. And they would be like, you need to record your hours and what you've been doing all this time because nobody knows what you're ever doing. And, it seems like we just can't justify paying you what we're paying you. So one day she came to me and we had the same talk. And she came to me with the head of the board of directors, who is, I think he's still serving as the head of the Naropa University psychology department. His name is Mick Andrew Jack. And they pounced on me. And I kept claiming like, dude, I'm working all the time. Are you crazy? And they're both claiming, yeah, but somehow your hours don't match up. Mick Andrews, he's on her side. They've triangulated. And so finally, something in a light goes on. And I was like, oh, give them what they want. And I was like, okay, how about this? I'll just work part-time from now on. And I called their bluff. And they both sort of like, it was like they both had a start, like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'll just work part-time. You say that I'm not working. I don't have enough to do. You can't afford to pay me. So I'm happy to just work part-time salary, part-time hours. And Tsultrim was like, no. Actually, it's fine, Sophia. You can work full-time. It's fine. We'll figure it out. And that was the moment when I realized, oh, I'm done here. It's a game. It was a game the whole time.
Yeah.
So at that time, I had a new boyfriend, and he was a Zen Buddhist, and he had never bought into guru worship. He thought Tibetan Buddhism was fucking crazy, and it is. Zen Buddhism is also crazy, but Tibetan Buddhism really takes the cake. So he never bought into it, and I had him, we would talk shit. He was like, I'm going to California. That's where he was from. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, please, God, get me out of here. Yes. And I don't know if I would have had the courage to leave without him, because even though I realized that the whole thing was a sham, Tsultrim had so effectively broken down any sense of self-worth that I had that I thought that I wouldn't make it in the real world. I thought that I wasn't fit to work at McDonald's. Like, she made me feel like I was mentally disabled based on how stupid and inept she constantly communicated I was. I went to her and I told her, I'll never be good enough for you. I was like, I'm never going to be good at this job in the way that you deserve.
Oh, nice.
So I think that I should move on and, do something else. I made a promise. I was like, I'm going to go be a therapist so that I can keep helping beings, sentient beings, right? Because that's supposedly that's the goal. And I will live in California and I will work with the Tara Mandala community there. And I will still serve you and do whatever you need there. I will always be on call for you. About a month later, I think, my boyfriend and I packed up our shit and we left. And then I did continue to work out of the community for, I want to say like 6 months to a year longer. I was at her beck and call from there, but she's such a shit. Like I was working for these Silicon Valley CEOs as an assistant, and I needed a referral. And so she gave me one by phone. And then the person, like the agency that was hiring me, they were like, oh, your former employer gave you such a glowing review. She said, you're just so amazing at folding clothing and ironing. She still micromanaged my life from afar. And the assistant, Anna, also ended up moving to California a few months later. And she was still being very abusive towards me. And I was like, oh, enough. Like, we're not there anymore. I don't need this. But in Tibetan Buddhism, you're like not allowed to sever ties with anyone in your community. That's considered breaking samaya. And the consequences of breaking samaya are going to hell. Like that's just a one-way ticket to the hell realms. One day she wrote to me and I just wrote back, not my religion, not my Sangha, and not my teacher. Sincerely, Sophia May, fully integrated.
Oh, amazing.
Nice.
I love that so much.
And that was it.
You didn't really do the work, I guess. When did you figure out that it, like, when did you put the cult piece together? How long ago? How long after was that?
It might have been around the same time. Rachel from the article, she lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we had become close in that time. And she figured out it was a cult after her devastating fallout there. She had a therapist who just identified it immediately. And then Rachel was like, if you don't believe me, literally just go online and read about what a cult is. Just read about it, read a checklist. And there were like 20 items on the checklist, and Tara Mandala fulfilled 18 of those 20 items. And like the two it didn't fulfill was that you're not allowed to leave, because you are, they just make it hard. And then that you're not allowed to have contact with friends or family outside of the community. And you were allowed to do that, but it didn't really pertain to me because I came from a broken home.
Right. Yeah, those checklists, sometimes they can be helpful for people, and other times it can be used as a deflection, like, oh, our group doesn't have a charismatic leader, therefore it's not a cult.
The best thing to do is listen to a little bit culty.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much you've heard our entire catalog of over 300 episodes, but back in the old days when we first started, we used to have a section called Word Salad, where Nippy would read a segment of...
Or I'd just make it up based on the impression I got.
He'd either make it up or he'd find some quote that the guru under the microscope had said, and he'd read it. So if you happen to have something that she has said publicly or
something
privately,
that chaps your ass.
Yeah, well, I'm coming to that in a second. Please do send it to us, because I'll have Nippy read it in the outro or the intro to this episode. And the other thing we used to do is a segment called Chaps My Ass, where we would say, like, so what was the thing, like when you look back at that whole situation, what was the thing that chaps your ass the most? Something that you had to do or something that happened that was like super hypocritical that you witnessed? What's the most ass-chapping thing about Tara Mandala? Tara Mandala.
I thought it was Rich Bitch at this point.
I think it was that... It was okay. And this actually is also the quote I would send you. So she blamed the staff for her husband David's death. She would chronically say, the last time that you didn't do protectors, Dave died. So there's this, she created this belief that because this specific practice where you invoke the protectors and you ask them to create an iron dome, essentially. You're asking them, create the iron dome around our center so that we continue our enlightened activities. And the one time that it didn't happen, that this nun didn't do it, Dave died. And then the next time that happened, a statue was stolen by townspeople. And so she would always say, like, the last time we didn't do protectors, Dave died. And chronically blaming all of us for Dave's death and chastising us. And we let that go. Like, we would all just roll our eyes after those sessions and be like, fucking, like, get real. Like, we all know that that's not what it is.
Good.
And also, I think it's hilarious that there was this idea that because this nun hadn't done the practice the 2 times that this had happened. And what I'm willing to bet you is that nun probably never did the practices. So it's such a shitty thing to do to people who really loved someone. And that nun who struggled so much with mental illness, she totally believed that it was her fault. And she took that on. And that was really weaponized against her.
That's terrible.
How long after you left did you decide to go public? And how did you connect with B. Schofield into doing the article? The only expose that we have on tikka masala.
So about a year or so after I left, the Me Too movement started. And I decided to use that as an opportunity to talk about the times I was sexually abused by male Tibetan Buddhist teachers at Tara Mandala, and Tsultrim defending those teachers, and the experience I had with this super violent boyfriend and Tsultrim defending him and accusing me of projecting. So I exposed her through a Me Too post. Like, a lot of people responded. A lot of people wrote to me and they were like, I was at Tara Mandala. It's totally fucked. And that was really great. I got some important connections through that post. And then I didn't say anything for a long time. But then once I became a comic and I had more of a platform and I would do these comedy podcasts and people would ask me, they'd be like, oh, so you were in a cult. Well, that's pretty interesting. Care to share something about that? And then I would shit talk to my heart's content. And B found one of those podcasts, B Schofield, and well, she took what I said seriously enough to contact me, and she asked if I wanted to talk to her about exposing Tara Mandala. And so that was last year. So it was about 10 years after I left. And I was like, fuck, I'm ready. I've always wanted to do this. And someone's actually coming to me with this opportunity. Now is the time to strike.
Let's take a break from the cultiverse. Here's a word from our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes it can feel like everyone else has their love life totally figured out, like they got some secret manual and you missed the email. Truth is, most of us are still figuring it out as we go and talking about it on our podcast. And wherever you are on that journey, therapy can really help you find your way. It can help you understand what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some of that pressure off yourself. And let's be real. February is loud about relationships, flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and constant reminders of who's coupled up and who's not. But no matter where you are, partnered, dating, single, or just focusing on you, you're not behind. You're right on time. Therapy can help you see more clearly where you are and where you actually want to go. BetterHelp makes it easy to get started. Their therapists are fully licensed in the U.S. and follow a strict code of conduct. They do the matching work for you with a quick questionnaire, and if your first match isn't right, you can switch anytime. Whether it's individual therapy or couples work, it's a space to figure things out without judgment and start feeling a little lighter again. Sign up and get 10% off betterhelp.com/culty. That's betterhelp.com/culty.
You know what's better than flowers that die in a couple of days? Matching underwear. I'm serious. MeUndies has fully cracked the code on Valentine's Day gifts with matching sets for couples. They're cute, a little intimate, and unlike roses, you'll actually keep using them. You've already seen us sport them. Yes, I have to trick Nippy into wearing a matching set with me, Avi, but it's good times. Good times over here, people. MeUndies makes matching underwear specifically for couples. Same adorable prints, different cuts for each of you, all made with their signature ultramodal fabric that somehow feels impossibly soft every single time. And this isn't just heart slapped on random underwear. MeUndies designs coordinating prints from the ground up. Their Valentine's collection is literally made for two. People are obsessed for a reason. Over 30 million pairs sold and more than 90,000 five-star reviews. They fit well, they feel amazing, and they actually last. Plus, their first pair promise means that you've got 40 days risk-free. And if it's not love, they'll make it right. Boxer briefs, trunks, bikinis, thongs, cheeky styles. Same print, different fits. Valentine's Day is February 14th, in case you forgot. So order soon. This is the gift that keeps on giving long after the chocolate's gone. Make this Valentine's Day one to remember with matching underwear from MeUndies. To get exclusive deals up to 50% off, go to MeUndies.com/culty and enter promo code culty. That's MeUndies.com/culty, promo code culty for up to 50% off. Happy Valentine's!
One thing I'm proud of this year is I'm still wearing my favorite pieces from 2025. And honestly, that's kind of the whole point with Quince. They're all about elevated essentials that feel effortless. That's right, effortless. Pieces designed for layering, mixing, and actually living in. Not trends you're over in 6 months. No, not me. Quince really nails the wardrobe staples with qualities that last. Think 100% organic cotton sweaters, premium denim with stretch that's comfortable all day, and those cotton cashmere blends that are perfect when the seasons in Atlanta can't make up their mind. These are the pieces you reach for on repeat. Quince works directly with safe, ethical factories and cuts out the middleman, so you're not paying for brand markup. Just genuinely high-quality clothing, European linen, organic cotton, beautiful fabric, and thoughtful details. I just got a new pair of pants, like pants, not sweats, which are my regular go-to. It's like wearing butter around your buttocks, as Forrest Gump would put it. You want a pair? You can order some too. Ultra stretch 24/7 smart chinos, athletic tapered, of course. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/culty for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/culty to get free shipping and a 365-day returns. Quince.com/culty.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Now let's dive back into the cultiverse.
One of the things I really relate to when you're speaking about that is just like these bitch sessions. Like when you're not allowed to say anything negative, and we didn't really get into it so much in the podcast, but I remember in B's article, there's no place to give feedback. Anytime you give feedback, you're gaslit. Anytime you share anything negative, it's your own projections, it's your own, other groups call it distortions, your disintegrations and Nexium. It's your
Whatever
own
the language is.
your own shit, right? Like how do you relay something that's negative? And it's just like we don't even have to call Tara Mandala, sorry, a cult. You say it's toxic. It's like a toxic, very negative, unsafe place. And that's your experience. So I don't know how legal they are if they go after people, but like, this is your experience. We're not even calling it anything. Maybe it's a little bit culty, whatever. It's just it's not a safe place. And it's not really in line with what I think Buddhism is supposed to be. So, I really appreciate you speaking up about it. I appreciate that you were willing to use your real name in the article. I know a lot of people weren't. That's not her real name. And we'll make sure to link the article in the show notes so people can read more about it.
I want the word salad.
Yes. Yes. We'll get the word salad. And there's a couple of stories in there that I just thought were really wild, like Rachel having to leave Christmas to go pick up a particular eyeliner and deliver it to herself. Like, that kind of shit, that really chaps my ass. It's just taking advantage of people's willingness to grow and to be, a good servant, essentially, which, by the way, another book I want to recommend to you. I'm giving you a whole bunch of books.
This is why our books can be great for someone at 19 years old. When I was reading your story, I was like, God, I wish...
Yeah. Our next book, I don't know if you've been following our journey, but we tried to summarize all the wisdom from our guests into one book that we can give to people, specifically like at that age, to be like, oh, these are what red flags look like. And this is how you can be isolated and groomed and love bombed and all the things that could set you up for success as a cult follower. But the other book I was going to say was The Fawning Book by Dr. Ingrid Clayton. Now I'm just telling every single woman I know, but like there were probably so many times you're like, that doesn't feel right, but you want to be a good girl and you wanted to be accepted and it was just safer to please, right? So
yes,
I've given you like a small reading list moving forward, but I'm so glad that you're speaking out because these groups continue to thrive because they're not exposed, and hopefully people will find the article or find this podcast and decide for themselves if they want to put themselves through that. And my final question for you is, for someone who's listening and might be Buddhist or a spiritual community that they love, but they're also maybe feeling gaslit or shamed or unsafe, what questions would you want them to ask themselves, and what would you say is important for them to know?
Well, the thing is, I have zero faith in Buddhism entirely. So it's difficult for me to see Buddhism as being healthy in any way, because it is a religion where the sort of foundational meditation teaches you to not think. And a person who's trained in non-thinking is super easy to brainwash. So you're making yourself very vulnerable. And I think understand that Buddhism is a religion. In the West, people believe that Buddhism is more of a chill philosophy that seems to just be endlessly supportive, like a hippie parent who just, like digs it, right? It's all groovy. But it's an actual religion, and it comes from a culture that is incredibly different from our culture. And it's for this reason, a lot of people completely abandon all of their healthy suspicion that they would apply to any other religious setting. Anyone who's getting involved in Christianity, who's previously been an atheist or who comes from another religion, anyone who's converting and knows they're converting to a religion probably knows to exercise healthy skepticism. But because Westerners know almost nothing about Buddhism, and because there's no God, they really have this innate conviction that it's not a religion and that nothing can go wrong. And all they've been exposed to are serene Asian faces that, are the face of this religion. That's a symbol that feels very encouraging. There's so much corruption and patriarchy in Tibet, in Asian cultures as well, that, this is something that we don't seem to really know about this other culture, but it's also built into the religion. So it's just important for people to understand that there's no pure, true religion. Even the Buddha himself was very flawed. And if you're really practicing true Buddhism, the Buddha always said, if you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. So Tibetan Buddhism is a direct contradiction of those teachings. And the Buddha also said, don't follow anyone. So I guess true Buddhism would be don't practice Buddhism. I also think that the reason that so many people even come to meditation is for stabilizing themselves. But I think that it's a very topical solution. And, it was a topical solution for me for stabilizing. But what ultimately led to lasting, stabilizing change from the root was therapy.
Any particular form of therapy been really helpful for you, or what's the modality that you want to share?
Initially, I did EMDR therapy, which was, like I said, just to sort of relinquish Tsultrim's control over me. After I left, it was very interventionist because I was really, really unwell. And then I've always just been in talk therapy with different therapists. I don't know if it matters so much what kind of therapy it is, as long as there's some somatic connection. And the therapist also can't be a secret pervert. Like, you need a really good therapist who you trust, just empowers you.
No secret perverts that's a good idea.
Yeah. And I'd also just like to say that part of my healing, it's been coming forward with my real name. That's been a big deal because it's kind of like saying to Tara Mandala, hey, if you want me, come and get me. I fucking dare you. It makes me feel empowered. Like, I'm your predator now. How do you like that?
Has there been any pushback?
As far as I know, not from them directly, but there's been a lot of pushback on Reddit from people in the community who are just gaslight me. I'm really good at not getting tripped up by them. And then comedy is also such a big part of my healing process. I'm currently writing a new solo hour called The Buddha Wears Prada. It's all about being the assistant to a very chic, narcissistic, super famous Buddhist leader. I will be performing it at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this year. It's so wonderful to find the funny. Like, you get this, even just a little bit of distance, and it's like you can peel back the wallpaper that you always thought was just the wall. And then you see, oh, it's just like super shitty wallpaper.
I'm so happy you're on the other side of it and that you have the voice to speak up and can help so many people because, if this stuff doesn't exist, it's easy to do a search and just think this is a happy hippie commune like you experienced at the beginning, which is always so consistent with every guest we've spoken to. It's always great at the beginning. Has to be. Otherwise, why would you stick around?
Yeah. But some people would come to Tara Mandala, they'd volunteer for 2 days, and they would be like, this place is fucked. And then they would get out of there. And those people were like normal, healthy people. And anyone who thought what was happening there was normal usually came from some background of abuse.
Your one-woman show is going to be great. And this could also be an incredible script for a movie or a series. So, if you feel like writing it out, I think you have a story here that would be quite quite captivating for the screen as well, or a book.
Thank you. Making poor decisions will often lead to the best stories.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You have an incredible story.
It certainly made for a great docuseries, and thank you, Vanguard.
It really is an amazing series. I was totally spellbound. It turned even more into food, medicine for me, to identify all of the parallels that I saw between your cult and my cult. But also, I think NXIVM was in many ways far more extreme, and it truly blows my mind what happens there.
I mean, extreme and for the branding, or sure, but like, what you spending 2.5 years as her servant / volunteer. Well, I guess you were getting paid, so whatever you want to call it, low paid assistant. That's intense in a different way. I mean, it's one of our lines here is it's not the trauma Olympics, right? So everyone's got their own traumatic story, and it's case by case. But I'm so glad that you were here. I learned a lot. How did you end up in Germany? That was one of my questions.
When I got to the Bay Area, these Silicon Valley CEOs, my life was so meaningless. And the Syrian refugee crisis was at its height around that time. And I learned about it. And I learned that people were volunteering, that people were quitting their jobs and just going to Greece to volunteer. And I was like, I've got savings. I need to do something that actually matters instead of just be a mirror for a narcissist. And so, because my job was so demeaning and so deprived of meaning, I quit and I went. And it was a very beautiful experience. And I decided then to move to the Middle East to learn Arabic, to be a translator for Syrian refugees. And I did that. And then it took 3 years, a lot longer than I thought it would. And anyway, so I moved to Berlin because Angela Merkel had let in 1 million Syrians, and I thought this is the perfect place to combine the two things I need. I moved here and I don't translate actually anymore. It was too difficult to get the working permits for it. So I became a software engineer and a comedian, and I decided to never help anyone ever again.
And I just want to make sure that you know that you are a good person. Like, are you over that now? Like, have you embraced your goodness regardless of your acts of servitude, you think?
Yeah. I think I've gotten over the importance of even the concept of the good person, because I think people are just really complex. And if you have a conscience and you're an empathetic person, then your actions just naturally flow from that place of caring for others. But also as a comedian, I didn't even realize it would be this way, but I always play the villain on stage. And that's also a part of my healing, is to have a space where I claim my own shadow and I bring it to the forefront and show people how funny the shadow is. And we all celebrate that part of us. So I'm much more excited by complexity than being a Puritan.
I love it. So thank you so much. It was such a treat to chat with you, and I hope that you please keep in touch. I'm going to find a way to get you. I don't know how I'm going to ship it to you to Berlin, but maybe I can get you the Audible once it's done of the new book, because I think you're going to love it.
Oh my God, I would absolutely love it. And thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. You guys are such heroes of mine.
Thank you so much. This will be out in a couple of weeks, so I'll make sure that you're tagged and collabed and all the things, and just continue to shine a light on Tikka Masala Tara Mandala. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. I'm going to get in trouble if someone's going to tell me that I'm, I don't know, culturally appropriating or blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I'm over it. We have to laugh.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, everybody. That's part 2 with Sophia May. As promised, some word salad. We are bringing it back. It is a short one, but it's a good one.
Sometimes the shortest ones are the best. Said no one ever, really. But anyway, here it is. Drum roll, please. Back to our roots on this one, Sarah. Poisons are wisdoms wearing a veil. Lama Tsultrim Allione. What do you make of that?
Poisons are wisdom's wearing a veil.
I'm going to poison you, but I'm really giving you wisdom.
I don't know. It's there's so much gaslighting in there. I can't even wrap my head around it.
To go, what does that mean?
Poisons are wisdom's wearing a veil. So the poisons are wearing a veil because it makes all poison wisdom.
Or like hard times are, really disguised as opportunity. That whole hard times.
So basically you can get wisdom out of anything because it's just a poison and a veil.
Yeah. So if I'm poisonous.
That's an excuse for abuse right there. I don't like it, Lama Tsultrim.
I imagine it comes right after I treated you like shit.
Yeah. Lama Tsultrim, if that's your real name. No, it's not your real name.
Yeah. Lama.
Anyway, hope this brings you joy. Spending time with Sophia was hilarious. We love talking to comedians because, you gotta laugh sometimes. Hearing that therapy and comedy and calling this group out has made her life better, reminded us that there's always ways out.
Yeah, you gotta throw some shade at your shit.
We hope that her courage gives anyone who's feeling trapped in a controlling spiritual environment permission to trust their gut and walk away. Till next time.
Poisons are wisdom's wearing a veil.
Namaste, motherfuckers.
Sinking down to the depths of the ocean. I'm hanging on to the wave of my love. If I let go of it all, I could leave, but I know I won't.
We hope you're enjoying A Little Bit Culty. If so, please do show us some love. Drop a rating or leave a review. Hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/alittlebitculty.
Even better, send this episode to someone who needs it. Maybe they're in a cult. Maybe they're just a little bit susceptible. Or maybe they just love a good story. Spread the word, spread the love. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
A Little Bit Culty is a Trace 120 production.
Executive produced by Sarah Edmondson and Anthony Nippy Ames in collaboration with producer Will Rutherford at Citizens of Sound. Our co-creator is Jess Temple Tardy.
Our production coordinator is Leslie Dinsmore.
Writing by Sandra Namoto and social media marketing by Eric Swarzinski and Brooke Keene.
Our theme song, Cultivated, is by the artists John Bryant and Nigel Aslan.